Hey kids! Welcome to our little Grizzo TV.
Once upon a time, in a quiet village by the edge of a great forest, there lived a sweet little girl. She was loved by all, but most of all by her grandmother, who had sewn her a beautiful red cloak with a hood. The girl wore it so often that everyone called her Little Red Riding Hood. One day, her mother said,
"Grandmother is ill. Take this basket of food and go visit her. But remember, stay on the path. Do not talk to strangers, and go straight to her house."
Little Red Riding Hood set off happily. The sun shone through the trees, and birds sang as she walked along the forest path. But soon, a cunning wolf stepped out from behind a tree.
"Good morning, little girl."
The wolf said with a sly smile.
Good morning, Mr. Wolf.
She replied, remembering her mother's warning but thinking he seemed polite.
"Where are you going so early?"
The wolf asked.
I'm going to my grandmother's house, deep in the woods.
She answered innocently. The wolf's eyes gleamed.
"Ah, how kind of you. And where might her house be?"
It's just past the big oak tree and near the 3 mossy stones.
She said. The wolf licked his lips but smiled.
"Such lovely flowers grow here. Why not pick a bouquet for your dear grandmother?"
Little Red Riding Hood thought this was a fine idea, and as she stopped to gather flowers, the wolf dashed away on a shorter path to grandmother's house. When he arrived, he knocked on the door.
"Who is it?"
Called the frail voice of the grandmother.
"It is I, Little Red Riding Hood."
The wolf answered, disguising his voice.
"Come in, my dear."
Said grandmother. The wolf rushed in, swallowed grandmother whole, and quickly dressed in her nightgown and cap. He then climbed into bed and waited. Soon, Little Red Riding Hood arrived. She knocked the door, but she noticed the door was slightly open and stepped inside. She said,
Grandmother, I have brought you food and flowers.
"Come closer, child."
The wolf replied, trying to sound gentle. Little Red Riding Hood stepped forward but felt uneasy.
Grandmother, what big ears you have.
"All the better to hear you with, my dear."
Grandmother, what big eyes you have.
"All the better to see you with, my dear."
Grandmother, what big hands you have.
"All the better to hug you with, my dear."
Grandmother, what big teeth you have.
"All the better to eat you with."
With that, the wolf leapt from the bed, ready to swallow her whole. But just as he lunged, a huntsman passing by heard the commotion and rushed inside. He saw the wolf and, with a swift swing of his axe, defeated him. The huntsman then carefully cut open the wolf's belly, and out popped grandmother, still alive. Little Red Riding Hood and her grandmother hugged tightly, relieved and thankful. From that day on, Little Red Riding Hood promised never to stray from the path or talk to strangers again. And as for the wolf, the forest was now safe from his cunning ways. And so, they lived happily ever after. Deep beneath the blue ocean, where sunlight danced on the water's surface and colorful fish swam happily, there was a magical kingdom called Coraluna. This kingdom was home to mermaids, sea creatures, and the most beautiful coral reefs. Inside the grand palace of Coraluna lived a kind and beautiful mermaid princess named Perlia. She had silvery blue hair, bright green eyes, and a shimmering rainbow-colored tail. Perlia loved swimming around her kingdom, playing with her sea friends, and searching for hidden treasures. Her best friends were Bubbles, a chubby, pink pufferfish who got scared very easily. Twirly, a playful little seahorse who talked a lot. Crabbo, a grumpy red crab who always said he didn't care, but secretly, he always helped. Perlia's father, King Tidal, was a wise and powerful merman. His most precious treasure was the Pearl of the Ocean, a glowing magical pearl that protected Coraluna from all dangers. One morning, Bubbles came rushing in, puffing up in panic.
Princess! Princess! Something terrible has happened!
What happened, Bubbles?
The pearl, it's gone!
Perlia's eyes widened in shock. If the pearl was missing, the entire kingdom could be in danger. Perlia quickly swam to the royal court, where King Tidal and all the mermaids were gathered, looking worried.
The pearl was stolen last night. Without it, our kingdom will grow weaker, and the sea monsters might attack.
Don't worry, Father. I'll find the pearl and bring it back.
Be careful, my child. The ocean is full of dangers.
Perlia turned to her friends.
Come on, let's go on an exciting adventure to find the pearl.
Why should I? I don't like adventures.
Oh, this is going to be so much fun.
But what if we run into a shark?
Don't worry. As long as we stick together, we'll be fine.
And so, the Little Mermaid and her friends set off on their great adventure, searching for the missing pearl. They searched everywhere, through glowing coral reefs, dark underwater caves, and even deep ocean trenches, but there was no sign of the pearl. Finally, they reached an old sunken ship, covered in seaweed and algae. The ship looked spooky.
I don't like this place at all.
Perlia spotted something shining inside the shipwreck.
Look! There's something there!
Slowly, they swam inside the wreck. Twirly gasped.
It's a shell with a message inside.
Perlia picked up the seashell and opened it to reveal a mysterious note. She read it aloud.
If you seek the lost pearl, find the one who hides in the night. Follow the stars, cross the rock, and enter the cave of shadows.
Oh no. That sounds really scary.
It's a riddle. Maybe it means we have to find an octopus.
Oh, I know an octopus. Old Inky, who lives in the deepest part of the ocean.
Now we have to visit a scary octopus too?
As they swam into the dark, deep waters, the sea grew colder and darker. Strange shapes floated around them, and suddenly, a cloud of black ink filled the water.
Yeah, it's Old Inky.
A giant old octopus with round glasses and a long white mustache emerged from the shadows.
Who dares disturb my nap?
I am Princess Perlia. We are looking for the stolen pearl of the ocean.
Inky thought for a moment.
I did see a silver fish with a sneaky look pass through here. He was whispering something about heading to the Shadow Cave.
The Shadow Cave was the scariest place in the ocean. It was home to 3 terrifying electric eels.
This just keeps getting worse.
As they entered the cave, suddenly, zap! A flash of lightning.
Who dares enter our cave? Turn back now or you'll get a shocking surprise. You won't make it out alive.
We're only here to find the stolen pearl.
The eels laughed wickedly.
Oh, Silvertail? He was here, but he was too scared of us and ran away.
Where did he go?
To the shipwreck graveyard.
The shipwreck graveyard was a spooky place, filled with broken ships and floating ghostly shadows. There, hiding between the wrecks, was Silvertail, a sneaky silver fish holding the glowing pearl.
Silvertail! That pearl belongs to Coraluna.
Catch me if you can!
He darted away, swimming as fast as he could. Twirly swirled around him, making him dizzy. Crabbo used his claws to block Silvertail's path. Finally, Perlia cast a magical bubble net, trapping him.
Fine, I give up!
Back in Coraluna, King Tidal placed the pearl back on its throne, and the entire kingdom glowed brightly once again.
My brave daughter has saved us all.
The whole ocean cheered, and that night there was a grand celebration. Even Silvertail was invited. After all, everyone deserves a second chance. And so, the Little Mermaid Princess and her friends had completed another great adventure.
Once upon a time, there lived a poor woodcutter with his wife and 2 children. The boy was named Hansel and the girl was named Gretel. They lived in a small old cottage at the edge of a deep forest. The family was very poor. Sometimes they had very little food to eat. One year, a great famine spread across the land. There was no food anywhere. The woodcutter worked hard, but he could not bring enough food home. His wife, who was not the children's real mother, became cruel and unkind. One night, the stepmother whispered to the woodcutter, "We have only one loaf of bread left. If we don't do something, all of us will starve. Tomorrow, we will take the children deep into the forest and leave them there." The woodcutter was shocked. "No," he said, "I cannot leave my own children alone in the forest." But the stepmother said, "If we don't, we will all die. It is better to save ourselves." The woodcutter was very sad, but finally agreed. Hansel and Gretel were awake and heard everything. Gretel began to cry, but Hansel said, "Don't worry, I have a plan." That night, Hansel quietly went outside. He filled his pockets with shiny white pebbles that glowed in the moonlight. Then he came back to bed. The next morning, the stepmother gave each child a small piece of bread. "This is all you will get today," she said. "Don't eat it all at once." The woodcutter led the children deep into the forest. As they walked, Hansel dropped the white pebbles one by one on the path behind them. After a long walk, the father said, "You children rest here by the fire. We are going to cut wood and will come back soon." But as the sun went down, Hansel and Gretel were still alone. No one came back. They waited all night. When morning came, Hansel said, "Don't worry, follow me." The white pebbles shone in the sunlight. Hansel and Gretel followed the trail and safely found their way back home. Their father was very happy to see them, but the stepmother was angry. She had not wanted the children to return. Soon, the food ran out again. One night, the stepmother whispered, "This time, we must take them even deeper into the forest." Hansel again wanted to collect pebbles, but the stepmother had locked the door. So, in the morning, Hansel used his small piece of bread to drop crumbs on the path instead. The parents left them deep in the forest again. But when Hansel and Gretel tried to follow the crumbs back, they found that the birds had eaten them. Now they were truly lost. They walked for hours and hours. They were tired and hungry. Then they saw something amazing. In a clearing in the forest stood a little house. But this was no ordinary house. The walls were made of gingerbread, the roof was made of cake, and the windows were made of sugar. Hansel broke off a piece of the wall and ate it. Gretel tasted the sugar window. Suddenly the door opened. An old woman came out. She looked kind and said, "Oh dear children, come inside. You must be hungry. I have warm beds and good food for you." Hansel and Gretel were happy and followed her in. The house smelled sweet and cozy. The old woman gave them milk, pancakes, and apples. Then she showed them 2 soft beds. Hansel and Gretel fell asleep at once. But the old woman was not kind. She was a wicked witch. She had built her candy house to trap children. She liked to eat them. In the morning, the witch locked Hansel in a cage. She said to Gretel, "You will do the chores. I will fatten up your brother and eat him." Days went by. The witch fed Hansel all the food he wanted. Every day she came and said, "Let me feel your finger. I want to see if you are fat enough." But Hansel was clever. He held out a little bone instead of his finger. The witch had poor eyesight and couldn't tell. She thought he was still too thin. Weeks passed. The witch grew tired of waiting. "He is fat enough now," she shouted. "Gretel, heat the oven. I will eat your brother today." Gretel was afraid but had an idea. She said, "I don't know how to use the oven. Can you show me?" The witch said, "Foolish girl, watch me." She opened the oven and leaned in. Quick as a flash, Gretel pushed her in and slammed the door shut. The wicked witch was trapped and burned away. Gretel ran to Hansel and opened the cage. Then they looked around the witch's house. They found boxes filled with gold and jewels. They filled their pockets and walked back into the forest. After a long walk, they saw a path they knew. It led them home. When they reached their house, their father ran to hug them. He had been very sad since they left. Their stepmother had died and he was all alone. Hansel and Gretel showed him the treasure. Now they had enough food and money to live happily ever after.
Long ago, in a hidden kingdom high above the clouds, there lived a tiny fairy named Lily. She had golden wings that shimmered like sunlight and a dress that sparkled like the stars. One day, the wise and kind fairy queen called Lily to her grand palace. She said,
"Human children lose their baby teeth as they grow. These teeth are full of childhood magic, and we must collect them to keep our fairy kingdom bright and strong. I want you to be the one to gather them."
Lily's eyes sparkled with excitement.
"I would love to do this, Your Majesty."
The queen handed Lily a tiny silver satchel and a pouch of magic dust. She instructed,
"Fly to the children's homes at night, take their baby teeth, leave behind a special gift, and make sure they know how wonderful growing up is."
From that night on, Lily set off on her magical journey. She flew down to the world of humans, her tiny wings fluttering like a butterfly's. She peeked through windows, looking for children who had placed their lost teeth under their pillows. When she found one, she sprinkled a little magic dust over the sleeping child to keep them in a peaceful dream. Then, ever so carefully, she slipped her tiny hands under the pillow, took the baby tooth, and placed it inside her silver satchel. In its place, she left a shiny coin, a small treasure, or sometimes even a tiny note that read,
"You are growing big and strong. Keep smiling, little one."
With a happy twirl, she whispered,
"Sleep well, dear child,"
and flew back into the night sky, leaving behind a faint sparkle of fairy dust. But what did Lily do with all the teeth? She carried them back to fairyland, where they were polished and turned into the glowing stars that lit up the sky. The more teeth Lily collected, the brighter the night sky became. Each tooth held a little bit of childhood magic, and when placed in the sky, it transformed into a twinkling star. The fairy queen and all the fairies in the kingdom watched with delight as their world glowed with the light of children's laughter and dreams. One night, Lily visited a little boy named Oliver, who had just lost his first tooth. He was so excited about the tooth fairy that he tried to stay awake to see her. He hid under his blanket, peeking out every few minutes. Lily fluttered into his room, careful not to make a sound. But as she reached under his pillow, Oliver suddenly whispered,
"I see you."
Lily gasped and froze. Fairies weren't supposed to be seen. But then Oliver smiled, his eyes wide with wonder.
"Are you really the Tooth Fairy?"
he asked. Lily giggled and nodded.
"Yes, but it's a secret. Only children who truly believe in magic can see me."
Oliver beamed.
"What do you do with all the teeth?"
Lily pointed out the window.
"Look at the stars, Oliver. Each one is made from a lost tooth, shining bright to remind you of the magic of growing up."
Oliver's eyes sparkled.
"Wow. That means I have a star in the sky?"
Lily nodded.
"Yes, and every time you look up at the stars,
you'll know that a little part of your childhood is lighting up the world.
With that, she sprinkled a little more magic dust over Oliver, helping him drift into a peaceful sleep. She placed a shiny gold coin under his pillow, then whispered,
"Keep believing in magic."
As she flew away, she smiled to herself. The magic of childhood would never fade, as long as children believed in wonder, dreams, and the tiny fairy who visited them in the night. And so, Lily continued her journey, visiting children all over the world, collecting their teeth, and turning them into beautiful stars, forever lighting up the sky.
Once upon a time, there was a kind woman who lived alone in a small cottage. She always wished for a child, but had none. One day, she went to an old witch and said, "I want a little child to love and care for. Can you help me?" The old witch smiled and gave her a magic seed. "Plant this in a flower pot, and soon you will have what you wish for." The woman took the seed home and planted it with care. The very next day, a beautiful flower grew. As the flower bloomed, inside it was a tiny girl, no bigger than a thumb. The woman named her Thumbelina. Thumbelina was a cheerful little girl. She played on the table and slept in a walnut shell with a soft leaf as a blanket. The woman loved her dearly. One night, as Thumbelina lay asleep, a big, ugly toad came through the window. "Oh, what a pretty little girl! She will make a perfect wife for my son." The toad picked up the sleeping Thumbelina and took her away. The toad placed Thumbelina on a lily pad in the middle of a pond. "Stay here, my dear. My son will come and marry you soon." Thumbelina woke up and started crying. She did not want to marry the toad. The little fish in the pond felt sorry for her. "We must help her," they said. So, they bit the stem of the lily pad, and soon it floated away with Thumbelina on it. As Thumbelina floated down the river, a Maybug saw her. "What a lovely girl," he said, and picked her up in his tiny arms. When he took her home, the other Maybugs laughed. "She has no wings. She does not look like us." Feeling embarrassed, the Maybug left her on a large leaf in the middle of the forest. Thumbelina wandered alone in the forest. She was cold and hungry. Soon winter came and the snow covered the ground. Thumbelina had nowhere to go. One day, she found a little mouse's burrow. The kind field mouse let her stay. "You can live with me, but you must help keep my house tidy," the mouse said. The mouse had a friend, a rich and old mole who lived underground. The mole often visited and liked Thumbelina's gentle nature. "You should marry me and live in my warm home," he said. Thumbelina did not want to marry the mole. He never liked the sun and he lived deep underground. But the mouse said, "You must. He will take care of you." One day, as Thumbelina walked in the mole's tunnel, she found a small swallow lying still. "Oh no, it is cold and almost dead," she cried. She covered the bird with soft leaves and took care of him. Slowly, the swallow opened his eyes. "Thank you, dear Thumbelina. You have saved my life," he said. He grew strong and flew away. Spring came, but the mouse and mole still wanted Thumbelina to marry. On the wedding day, she stood at the mole's dark home, feeling sad. Suddenly, she heard a familiar sound. It was the swallow. "Come with me, dear Thumbelina. We will fly to a land full of flowers and sunshine," he said. Thumbelina climbed onto his back, and they soared high into the sky. The wind brushed against her face as she smiled with joy. The swallow took Thumbelina to a beautiful land filled with flowers. In one of the flowers, she saw a tiny prince with golden wings. Welcome. I am the king of the flower people, he said kindly. He was as small as Thumbelina and very handsome. Thumbelina and the prince became friends. Soon he asked, "Will you be my queen?" Thumbelina happily said yes, and the flowers cheered. The prince gave her golden wings, and now she could fly too. She never had to worry again. She lived happily in the land of flowers, where the sun always shone and the birds always sang. And so, Thumbelina's adventure ended in happiness, surrounded by love and beauty.
Once upon a time, in a big, beautiful kingdom, there was a king and a queen who really wanted a baby. They waited and waited, and one day, their wish came true. The queen had a baby girl, and they named her Aurora because she was as pretty as the morning sun. Everyone in the kingdom was happy, and the king said, "Let's have a big party to celebrate." At the party, 7 good fairies came to see baby Aurora. Each fairy wanted to give her a special gift. The first fairy said, "I give you beauty. You will be very pretty." The second fairy said, "I give you grace. You will move nicely like a dancer." The third fairy said, "I give you a beautiful voice. You will sing like a bird." The fourth fairy said, "I give you smartness. You will learn many things." The fifth fairy said, "I give you kindness. You will be nice to everyone." The sixth fairy said, "I give you happiness. You will always be joyful." The seventh fairy was about to give her gift when something bad happened. Suddenly, a mean fairy named Maleficent showed up. She was mad because she wasn't invited to the party. She pointed at Aurora and said, "When she turns 16, she will touch a spinning wheel and fall asleep forever." The king and queen were very scared and sad, but the 7th good fairy hadn't given her gift yet. She said, "Don't worry. Aurora won't sleep forever. She will sleep until someone who loves her very much kisses her." This made the king and queen feel a little better, but they were still worried. The king wanted to keep Aurora safe. He made a rule. No more spinning wheels in the kingdom. Spinning wheels are machines that make thread, but they have a sharp part that can hurt people. So the king told everyone to break their spinning wheels and not make any more. The people did what he said because they wanted to protect the princess. Aurora grew up to be a happy and kind girl. She had golden hair and bright blue eyes. She loved playing in the palace gardens and singing with the birds. The king and queen loved her so much and kept her safe inside the palace. They didn't tell her about the mean fairy's curse because they didn't want her to be afraid. On the day Aurora turned 16, she was exploring the castle. She found a door she had never seen before and opened it. Inside, there was a narrow staircase going up. She climbed the stairs and found a small room. In the room, there was an old woman with a spinning wheel. The old woman was really Maleficent in disguise, but Aurora didn't know that. "Hello?" Aurora said nicely. "What are you doing?" "I'm spinning thread," the old woman said. "It's fun. Want to try?" Aurora had never seen a spinning wheel before. She said, "Yes, please." She sat down and touched the sharp part. "Ouch," she said. And then she fell asleep right away. When Aurora fell asleep, a magic spell made everyone in the castle fall asleep too. The king fell asleep in his chair. The queen fell asleep with her flowers. The cooks, the maids, the guards, and even the animals all fell asleep. Outside, a big wall of thorns grew around the castle so no one could get in. Many years went by and people started telling stories about the sleeping princess. They said, "There's a castle in the forest where a beautiful princess sleeps, waiting for someone to wake her." Lots of princes tried to get through the thorns, but they were too thick and sharp. No one could reach the castle. In another kingdom, there was a prince named Philip. He was brave and kind. One day, he heard the story of Sleeping Beauty and said, "I want to save her." He rode his horse to the forest. When he saw the wall of thorns, he didn't give up. He took his sword and cut through the branches. It was hard, and the thorns scratched him. But he kept going, because he wanted to help Aurora. After a long time, Prince Philip got through the thorns and went inside the castle. It was very quiet. He walked to the tower and found Aurora sleeping. She looked peaceful, like she was having a nice dream. Philip thought, "She's so beautiful. I hope my kiss can wake her." He bent down and gave her a gentle kiss. As soon as Philip kissed her, Aurora opened her eyes and smiled. "Thank you for waking me," she said. Then, everyone in the castle woke up too. The king and queen ran to Aurora and hugged her tight. They were so happy she was awake. The thorns around the castle went away, and the sun shone brightly again. Aurora and Prince Philip fell in love and decided to get married. They had a big wedding party with music, dancing, and lots of yummy food. The 7 good fairies came to say, "We wish you happiness." Everyone in the kingdom lived happily ever after, and the mean fairy Maleficent was never seen again.